Hey, everybody, what is up? I am Katrina from inkatwetrust, and I am back with another interview with a super awesome guest. I'm here with Dolli Darko. How are you today?
Hi, I am doing lovely. I'm very happy to be here.
So, thank you for coming on. So tell me, I know I'm always curious, just as a wrestling fan, but somebody who works kind of behind the scenes, what was the aha moment for you when you realized that wrestling was something you actually wanted to do and do it seriously?
So I was a wrestling fan growing up, a WWE fan growing up, as like a tween teen years or so, and then I kind of fell out of it around like 2014-ish, around the time when like Paige and AJ Lee left, as which well, I missed out on the whole women's movement right after that. Shame on me, but I fell out of it, did some life stuff, went through some life things, and then around I want to say 21, at this place I used to work at, a couple of my friends from work had told me about AEW, and I was like, wait, there's a new wrestling company, what? And then that got me to start watching wrestling again, and that's when I discovered like all the indies and everything like that, because like when I was younger, I come from like a very sheltered conservative upbringing, like I wasn't allowed to watch TNA growing up or ECW, so finding out there's this other realm of wrestling, I was like, "Holy fuck, this is like." I'm sorry, am I allowed to curse here? Okay, okay. Um, so yeah, I was watching wrestling one day and discovering, especially Joshi wrestling, which I take a lot of inspiration from. And then one day, I kind of had that like light bulb moment because I used to do martial arts when I was younger. I did martial arts for 14 years. I'm a first degree black belt. A lot of my movements come from that background, and I kind of had this aha moment where I was like, okay, I have all this experience with martial arts and I never had the opportunity to use it. Maybe this is something I could actually try and see what happens. And lo and behold, I started doing some research, some Googling. I found a wrestling school that was like really close to where I live and where I worked, like literally like about 10 minutes away, not even. And once I started that, it was just history from there.
Oh, I love that. I like that too. I feel like because my wrestling, I started watching pretty young, actually. I think it was like
Mhm.
six,
Oh, wow.
kind of attitude era, right before the attitude era. So yeah, I definitely wasn't necessarily sheltered in that regard, but I did fall off a couple of times because just wrestling, it happens sometimes. You gotta like, I don't know, and then you kind
Yeah,
of get back
sometimes
into it.
storylines, they're hit and miss, either it
Yeah,
gets you or it doesn't.
yeah. So I like that you mentioned that you have a black belt. So do you think, I guess, learning the stuff when it comes to like martial arts and stuff, was that more complicated for you, or was you learning how to, because wrestling is like you have to know how to wrestle, at least if you're a good wrestler, you have to at least know how to wrestle. But
Mhm.
also you have to incorporate character, you have to incorporate mic skills. So which one do you think was harder for you to kind of get into with I guess the most complications, I guess, from kind of transitioning from that into wrestling, which is a whole bunch, so many different pieces when you're like doing professional wrestling that's not like Olympic wrestling.
Right, right, completely get that. When I was first starting out, there were certain things that I was able to pick up pretty quickly because of me having the martial arts background and like me learning multiple styles of martial arts as well, such as like Krav Maga, Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do, Filipino stick and knife fighting, Muay Thai, Jiu Jitsu. Like having all those styles definitely helped me in some ways, but in some ways, like I kind of had to start over from scratch, especially like certain ways to strike and things like that, certain ways to hold. And there's always like, how do you say it? Like different flavors of ice cream, if you will. So, what way work for one person may not work as well for another person. And you just kind of have to find what works for you instead of like trying to be like so and so and doing this type of move. And like that may not work for everyone, but it took me a while for me to figure out what type of like wrestling style and things like that work for me, what works with like my style and like my abilities and like also someone of my size as well because I'm like 5'1". I'm vertically challenged, so there's only so much I can reach for. But as far as certain things like takedowns, bumping and things like that, those I was like for the most part pretty fine with, and I picked up pretty well soon after. And then mainly my main struggles were like me getting in my own head and like being hypercritical at times of myself, which was something I had to learn. I'm still learning to overcome over the years that passed since me starting wrestling. And so not learning not to get in my own head as much and just doing the damn thing, you know? Oh, I just heard my ankle crack loud.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I love that answer. I definitely am somebody who can sometimes be very hard on herself and also vertically challenged, as you said, because I'm only 5'2".
Oh,
So
still taller than me. You're still taller than me, at least.
so I always complain like, okay, out of my siblings, I'm literally the oldest but the shortest, and so it's like,
Same.
whatever, universe, this is what you're giving me. And so who were some of your favorite wrestlers when you started watching wrestling, and did you take any inspiration? I know you mentioned Josie Wrestling, which I love. I think the women there are like fantastic.
Yeah.
Who are some women you might have taken some inspiration when getting your character together for wrestling?
Um, as far as like my character, I take some inspiration from some wrestlers. Other inspirations I take from like even outside sources such as like certain films or TV series or even like anime at times. Like I draw some of my inspiration from certain anime characters, especially that like fire and fury that I like bring out. Um, as far as wrestlers go, some of the people that were like my favorites that I like looked up to and took inspiration from would have to be like, well, when I was a kid, obviously like Paige Soraya, AJ Lee. She was like someone that like I was like I identify, especially whenever she would like skip around the ring and do that like nutsy cuckoo shit. I lived for that. Hi, mom. Sorry, that was my mom. She just got home from Zumba. Um,
You're good.
like AJ Lee, she was definitely a big inspiration for sure. Also Batista, which he was very much slept on, I guess, but like for me, he was someone I gravitated towards, especially because growing up, especially as an Asian American, as a Filipino American, there wasn't really much representation as there is now on the media and like TVs, movies, or whichever. And seeing someone like him, who's also a half Filipino like me, I was like, oh, wow, finally someone that looks like me on TV. This is so cool. And like not being a stereotype either. Because a lot of times, whenever you, back in the day, whenever you would see like Asians in media, it would just be playing some stereotypical type role with some minor exceptions here and there. But like seeing Batista go out there and just being this whole powerhouse, it was like something I find very inspiring. And I want to be able to do the same thing with wrestling as well, be a source of representation because, now there's starting to be like a more of an uprise with like Asians in the media and things like that in a positive light, but still there's more work to be done. I hope to like be the next inspiration to other young girls and see for them to see like someone that looks like them pursuing what they want to do and following their dreams. So that I take some inspiration from a lot. And then like I said, Joshi wrestling too, such as like Julia, Hana Kimura, rest in peace, Manami Toyota, Megumi Kudo, like all of those are just like small but mighty and just will beat the living shit out of anyone is just exactly what I went for. And I just want to give that same type of energy. Even like people like that I've seen on AEW, such as like Jamie Hayter, I miss her. Oh my God. I miss seeing her on TV. Like just being like the strong powerhouse. And I just like, despite my size, I want to be able to like really
Yeah.
grab by the wall, you know?
I love some of even the choices like Megumi Kudo. I was introduced to her I think like 3.5 years ago, and I
Mhm.
stopped like really watching. I'm like, she is so awesome. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
loved how she's just kind of always really fabulous looking, but always did what she needed to do, and I love
Yeah,
that.
someone that can be like glamorous, but also like doing full-blown explosive death matches. I was, like, to the point where, like, there was one match she did where literally her outfit, I think it was her retirement match, actually, where, like, literally by the end of the match, like, she caught on fire and, like, the fabric from her gear, her wrestling outfit, was melting onto her skin and giving her third-degree burns, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is someone who is committed to their craft, and that is something that I have nothing but the utmost respect for."
Yeah, she's definitely, I would love to meet her and some whatever.
Oh, yes,
Just to, like, just to pick her brains. I think she's so awesome. And so
oh,
I definitely agree. I do think we are, slowly but surely getting more positive representation. I feel like that was always, just even with women's wrestling in general, is very
mhm,
back in the day, very in the box, very specific, kind of
right,
catering to male wrestling fans, and
mhm,
not so much the women, who have been watching as well. And so I do like that we are getting better representation, that we're getting more women, we're getting more women of color. I think that's actually really important. And so
absolutely.
you mentioned that you kind of grew up a bit conservative. And so was it a struggle, I guess, like with family support, or were they really supportive of you wanting to get into wrestling?
Um, from my father's side, he was, like, supportive because wrestling was something that my family and we grew up watching together. WWE would just make it a moment of, like, Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, we would watch together as a family, and that would be, like, one of the fun, happy times that we would have, like, one of the bonding moments, especially with, like, me and my, younger brother, who's no longer with us, that, like, especially his favorite wrestlers, we both had the same favorite wrestlers, like Jeff Hardy, and all of them, Edge, like Rey Mysterio. My mother, when I first told her that I was becoming a professional wrestler, of course, her first reaction was, "Are you fucking crazy?" But like over time, she's kind of grown to the idea, and like she even recently came to one of my wrestling shows for the very first time, and that was like very much like a heartwarming, special moment for me. Just having like both my parents there supporting me doing something that I love. That just like made my whole night.
Oh, I love that. First, my condolences. I'm sorry that you lost your
Mhm,
brother.
mhm,
But also I do like that you was able to get your both of your parents kind of there to see that. I feel like that's always such
mhm.
an, when you do something that you love so much, and just kind of having some kind of family support always makes it a little bit easier, whatever
Oh, yeah.
may come,
Oh,
if
yeah. And a
wrestling.
lot of, like, what motivates me to keep going would have to be my brother, and, like, when I was first debuting, like, I used to use one of his songs because he was a rapper as well. I used to use one of his songs as my entrance music, and it would make me feel like I have him with me when I'm going out there, and just so for him to see, like, "Look, I'm doing this shit. I'm doing the damn thing. This is for you, bud." You know?
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. That's so
Mhm.
sweet.
Mhm.
What is some advice that you have gotten from anybody in wrestling that you hold still very dear to you, something that you kind of always have in the back of your head?
Um, Probably the best advice, I mean, there's several, depending who you ask, but I would say the one that stuck with me and that I carry is that, like, there's no such thing as, like, knowing everything about wrestling because there's always gonna be something you don't know. You're always going to be a student of the game. There's always different flavors of ice cream, like different ways of doing things. And even when I'm like either training or like having a new opponent that's outside of my training realm, that I'm like, oh, you do it this way? Oh, I want to like, let me see how you do that. And then I'm like, oh, I think I want to try this next time. Thank you. And just kind of like learning from other people and things like that. And in a way, wrestling has helped me in a lot of ways also come out of my shell because usually outside of like the Dolly Darko persona. Like I'm very much like a shy, socially awkward, like can't be around people or like I will literally crawl into a hole and like wrestling in a way has helped me learn to be able to talk and conversate with people that have like a common interest as me and just being able to come out of my shell and find my inner self and confidence and find my inner boss ass bitch that way. So I'm learning to be more comfortable in my skin. So that's probably like another thing I've learned as well.
Oh, nice. If you were like explaining your character to somebody who has never seen you wrestle before, how would you say this is who I am in the wrestling ring? I do know most people try to add parts of themselves into the characters. They might turn it up a whole nother like different levels to make it a bit over the top for the fans to see that. But what it like if somebody who's never seen you wrestle, how would you describe who Dolly is?
Ooh, let's see. Dolly Darko, I would say there's very much of duality to her, I would say. Dolly being the soft, feminine, pink and sparkles, um, a literal doll pretty much, and just like has that sweet happy-go-lucky side, but then once the Darko kicks in, which is the fire, the rage, the amped up energy going from 0 to 100 and aggression and just once one no matter how many times you're going to beat her down or try to break her apart, she's going to get back up. She's going to keep going. She's going to go for the kill no matter what, win or lose. She's going to put up a fight no matter what. And I would say that is very much what Dolly Darko is. Like very much goth bimbo vibes, but with a whole lot of fire in the tank. Like imagine if best way I can describe is like imagine if Hello Kitty or Kuromi would be a better example. If Kuromi were to become a professional wrestler, that is very much me.
Oh, I love that. I love that comparison. I can now use I mean, I
Yeah.
understood what you were saying, but that like is a really good comparison. I can see that. Like, all right, I get what you mean.
Yeah, because like, one of the things, like, because Dolly Darko is also very much, like, an exaggerated version of myself. She is I was just telling my best friend last night, just, like, talking with her, someone who's, like, doesn't really know much about wrestling, things like that, but is supportive regardless. I try to explain it, like, Dolly is pretty much, like, an exaggerated version of myself. She's able to say and do the things, like, with her whole chest that, like, Megan can't really do, and I take a lot of that inspiration too from, I know it's a very odd inspiration, but Eddie Kingston, that man is, like, everything about him like, if I were to meet him one day, I would, like, absolutely cry in seconds because like, he's very much an inspiration to me and just how raw and real he is and that don't give a fuck, I'm just here to fight, let's go. Like, and just how open he is about, like, mental health too and things like that. And just he was someone that, like, I identified with, like, we're not cut from the same cloth, but we're still in the same store, if you get my drift there. And he was just like, that's someone I also take a lot of inspiration from, and that he takes a lot of inspiration from like the Japanese style, New Japan, All Japan, FMW, and just that constant fighting spirit. And I very much think that Dolly Darko encompasses that fighting spirit.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely, I do like his transparency with
Mhm,
mental health. I feel like a lot of people don't take it as serious as they should
yeah,
sometimes.
mhm,
And that's just for anybody in any age, any gender or whatever. Just
yeah.
try to take care of your mental health as well.
Mhm.
Um,
And
so
another thing about him I would say is, like, the fact that, like, especially with his promo work and
yeah,
everything, and the way he wrestles, it's just, like, you make because like, unfortunately, people can say that, like, quote, unquote, "kayfabe is dead," but I would say, like, Eddie Kingston is one of the only people that can make kayfabe seem like, can really make you believe, like, "Oh, he really hates that guy, like, he's going to kill him," you know? And, like, he brings so much raw realism, and that's, like, the exact same energy that I wanna be able to give. I like going for realism and raw look like I'm, like, fully dying, and then I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill this bitch." Bah, ah, 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 you know? So very that, very that.
I love that. What would you say is the best thing about being in the wrestling industry, and what is the worst thing to you about being in the wrestling industry?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably the best thing about the wrestling industry, I would say, one, the aesthetics and being able to be a character. And like for me, I personally like wrestling because it combines two of like my guilty pleasures, which is theater and drama and violence. So the combination of both words, because I was like a wannabe theater kid when I was younger. So the characterizations and storylines, that part I love, along with like the dressing up part and like not only that, but just like the energy I feel once I step out the curtain and go into the ring. It's like nothing else matters in the world, and I am just in my zone, and I am just the most confident that I can ever feel, that I don't really feel anywhere else. It's like feels like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I never really felt that with anything else or
Yeah,
anywhere else. And it was just like once I step into the ring, it's just like I'm home, you know? Like despite all the bullshit, despite all the dues I had to pay and every like pain and suffering that I had to go through along the way, all the rises and falls, that
yeah,
like this is why I do this, and just to get feel the crowd's energy and to be able to get a reaction from other people just from like me being me and doing what I do. Like
yeah.
that is like a magical feeling that like I can't compare to anything else. And then
I
the
love
worst thing, I don't know if I can say I to put it in nice terms, there's certain people in the industry along the way that, how do I say this nicely? Don't always have your best interests at heart. So you kind of at ways have to keep a guard up at times because you don't always know a certain person's intentions, or they can say one thing to your face and then something else immediately follows, or they do something else behind closed doors. And you don't necessarily know really know people until the shit hits the fan. And so there's some of that I experience. And there's like, of course, like with every industry and every workplace, you're always going to have like your good eggs and bad eggs and certain people you don't niche or vibe with. But it's just a matter of like, as long as you keep your head in the game and stay professional and do business, then and just vibe and have a good time. That's the best way I try to make the best of it.
I love that. Yeah, I've heard people tell me sometimes the wrestling can be real funny, like it's great, but then it's also unfortunately there are a couple of people who kind of messes up things, and so
Yeah,
while
yeah,
I've been fortunate so far, um, I've heard
yeah.
some stories. So
Yeah.
like,
Also,
you
the
know,
other worst thing would have to be the injuries by far.
yeah,
The injuries so yeah,
yeah,
I've already
always,
experienced, like, a couple already thus far,
oh,
like, a couple minor injuries, and
uh,
not being able to wrestle because of those injuries, just, like, it sucks, and then you kinda have to start over from scratch when you go back in, so
yeah.
mhm.
Oh man. So we're gonna do a quick speed round of
Okay,
questions. I'm
okay,
gonna throw some out there and then you tell me the first thing that pops in your head. So
okay,
first
okay.
question. Are you a morning bird or a night owl?
Night owl for sure, I hate mornings.
What was your last song you had on repeat?
Last song I had repeat, probably on the way home from work, Escapism by Rhea, I think her name is. That or like Tommy Genesis I've been listening to nonstop. I love Tommy Genesis.
Okay. If you could have any superpower, what would that power be and why?
Superpower. Um, I would have to say mind reading, hands down, just so I know like what a person is getting at with me and why they are the way they are. So, because I like knowing how people think and things like that.
Okay, I like that. If you were stuck on an island and can only bring three things with you, what would those three things be?
Three things. Probably a boat so I can have some kind of way to get out of the island if I want to. What else? Three things. Probably a Kuromi plushie too, because I am a mark for Hello Kitty and I have no shame about it. And and hopefully an unlimited supply of fried pickles because that's like my favorite guilty pleasure food through and through. I wouldn't even say guilty pleasure. That's like my favorite food in general. So if I can eat that, at least enjoy that on the island, I'm good. I'll just go stare at the seaside, eat my pickles, with Hello Kitty, and then when I'm ready, just hop on the boat and get out.
I
Amen,
respect it.
bye.
Respect that. Um, so you said you are an anime fan, as am I.
Mhm.
So if you could have any anime character as a tag team partner, who would that character be?
Ooh, that is a good one. Part of me wants to say Sailor Moon, but that's like an easy cliche answer. I hate saying that, but I would have to say Tomi from Junji Ito. She's probably like my favorite anime character of all time. I literally have her tattooed on my arm, like the infamous portrait of like her face half coming off, that one, which is actually a fan art and not original Junji Ito artwork. Not many people know that. Yeah, probably Tomi because like some of my inspiration comes from her, from that like succubus type energy where just like where the story behind her, for those who don't know the backstory, is like she's like this beautiful girl, and that men specifically fall so deeply in love with her that they get into this like homicidal psychological rage, and then they like instantly want to try to kill her. And no matter how many times they try to kill her, she just won't die. There's no killing her. She is always going to come back one way or another, and way more stronger and way more deadly. And that is definitely someone I want in my corner as a tag partner. Someone that's not gonna die and not gonna take shit from nobody. Cause same.
I love that. So my
Especially
last,
with intergender matches, like that would be perfect. Cause
oh
they'll
yeah,
end up dying, and then we're just gonna play and have a good damn time.
oh I
Definitely.
love that. I like that you already like saw the scenarios of how this can work. I love it.
Mhm.
So my last question for you is, what is something you want to accomplish in the next 5 years?
Ooh, next 5 years, I would have to say definitely, asides like wrestling more outside of New York and all over the country and stuff like that, I 100% want to make my way over to Japan. Like Japan's like the big goal for me. Especially if I were to make my way to like Stardom or like New Japan, even hell. Like if I could, I would love to start my own like all female Bullet Club, because that hasn't been done before. There's never been like an all female or female fronted Bullet Club yet. And like, if I could be the first to do that, like, I would love that for me. Like, that would be an absolute slay. Of course, like, be able to wrestle on TV as well, whether it be like on TNA or AEW, WWE. That's like, I don't know if I'll ever make it in WWE, but like in an ideal world, I would love to be in WWE some way, somehow. So, and just be able to like wrestle all over the world and just like have a good time and just like make as most and best of my career as I possibly can.
I love that. That's a
Mhm,
great answer.
mhm.
So tell the audience where they can follow you and support, and how can they support you, like if you have merch or any of that stuff.
Yes. All my social medias for the most part are at Dolly Darko, DOLLIDARKO. I have one shirt merch so far on Pro Wrestling Tees. You can just search up Dolly Darko and you'll find me there. And I'm planning on post adding a new shirt to the shop soon. I just released the design of it recently on my Instagram. And I have two upcoming shows in February. One for Remarkable Wrestling Heart Shaped Box at Smith Haven Mall on Long Island, New York. Um, that one, I have a three-way match with Gabby Forza, Nomi, and Kaya McKenna, the Divine Goddess. So I'm planning on throwing some girls left and right, kicking some heads in, and so there's that coming up. That's on February 10th, and then February 4th, I have a title opportunity. Me versus Amity LaVey. Me and her have been having an ongoing back and forth going on, and I'm plan on taking that belt from her right when I'm able to. That will be at Psycho Circus. That is on February 24th for NYWC, which is my home promotion, my training grounds, New York Wrestling Connection. That will be at Farmingville Fire Department. Just go to at NYWC Wrestling for where to buy the tickets. They're selling out super fast. And yeah, and I'm hoping to wrestle more anytime, anywhere.
Oh, nice. So you guys have it. Please go give Dolly a follow on social media. Support, buy some merch. We got to support our indie girlies. So always support and buy some merch. If you can go to Long Island, definitely go check out the shows there. I want to thank you so much, Dolly, for coming on. This has been a really
Thank
fun
you.
interview.
Yes,
I
yes,
love your,
absolutely.
you
I'm
have
so happy I got to meet you, and hopefully we get
yes,
to like, meet again soon, whether it be like backstage or whichever.
hopefully
Anytime
so.
you need me back, let me
I
know.
you're a New Yorker like I am, so
Yes,
yeah,
would
so I
love
feel like
that.
when this should happen at some point, at least in person, because you live in Long Island, I live in Queens.
Yeah,
So
close enough, close enough. I've
it's
been
close.
around
Yeah,
Queens and
we're
stuff
on.
before.
But I want to thank you for coming on again. Super fun interview. I love the energy, love the vibes, love what's happening here, and hopefully I can get you back on. Like I said, you have a lot of awesome stuff back there, and so I'm like, there are so many things happening. We have Women's History Month coming up soon enough. I would love to have you back
Yeah,
on if that works for you, and so that should be cool. Love that.
love that. Loves it. Can't wait.
Okay, everybody, all the links will be in the description, and we will check you guys later. Bye, guys.
Bye.